Thank you, Edson, for reminding us again that the love of our Lord Jesus Christ is the heartbeat of our mission. And so wherever we are and whatever we do in proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ, we should never forget that it should be love. That should be what should be the motivation of our proclamation. It's good to see you today, brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ. I'm so delighted to see you come and worship with us today. We continue with our series here on stewardship. If you will notice, it's not really a specifically fixed thing that I'm following through. But as I have promised, as I have said last time, that we will be looking up at these aspects of stewardship that we have been studying, and we will be studying for this first quarter of the year. So I'm kind of jiving my topics, with what is going to be presented here or during our Sabbath school lesson. Today, specifically, we'll be talking something about prophecy and how stewardship relates, or how we would look at stewardship, in the light of prophetic events that is going to come in the last days. First of all, we would like to read again that passage of Scripture. Okay? It's found in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 17. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Those of you who have grown up in the Adventist church, you can understand the significance of this message behind this cryptic passage of Scripture. And sometimes you might be asking the question, will it really happen? Is it really going to happen? At a time when we see the stock market soar to unprecedented heights, and businesses today are promising fat bonuses for their employees, or even companies like Apple announcing multi-billion investments in this country, in the United States, in response to President Trump's tax cuts. It almost seems impossible really to believe that this prophecy of Revelation 13, 16, and 17 will ever come to pass. Right? What do you think? But you see, earnest students of the Bible believe that a time of trouble is coming, and we really need to prepare for it. Before dealing with what prophecy has to say about stewardship, our stewardship as we come to the end time, let's consider first of all the present state of affairs. Our present state of affairs. Perhaps this picture says a lot about what many homes in this country are experiencing. Look carefully at this picture. What do you think? Cluttered with so much stuff, right? Our homes are being cluttered with so much stuff. In his book, Stuffication, Living More with Less, James Wallman, he's, by the way, a trend forecaster, a British journalist, and an author. He said, "We have more stuff than we could ever need. Things that we don't use, toys we don't even play with, and clothes we don't even wear." What? And then he continues to say something like this. Consider the average British woman. According to various surveys, she buys 59 items of clothing each year. She has twice as many things in her wardrobe today as she had in 1980. And she has 22 things in there that she has never even worn. Now, he says, I'm not piling all the blame on the average British woman, though. We are all guilty, he said. So many of us have so much stuff today in our homes. Well, what do you think, brothers and sisters? Isn't this a reality that we are seeing and facing today? And I, for one, I have so much stuff. And so my wife and I are deciding that, it's a good start, start of the year, January. We need to look over our garage and maybe begin to dispose those things that we are not even using, or we seldom use. A team of anthropologists from the University of California, that is LA, UCLA, they did a research on contemporary life. And they concluded that we are living in the most materially rich society in global history, with light years more possessions per average family than any preceding society. Wow. In the smallest home in their study, they did a study, in the smallest home in their study, a house of 980 feet square. Okay? There were 2 bedrooms and a living room alone. In those rooms, 2 bedrooms and in the living room, in those rooms alone, there were 2,260 items. On average, each family had 39 pairs of shoes, 90 DVDs or videos, 139 toys, 212 CDs, and 438 books and magazines. 9 out of 10 had so many things that they kept the household stuff in the garage. 3/4 of them had so much stuff in there was no room left for the cars. Isn't it that garage is supposed to be for cars? Right? At the end of their study, this group of anthropologists from UCLA, they concluded that because of the sheer number of things that people own today, we are at a point of what they call material saturation. We are coping with extraordinary clutter. We are facing a clutter crisis. And this suffocation problem is the material, by the way, it's the material version, according to Wallman, of the epidemic, of the obesity epidemic of today. Right? We don't only have a lot of stuff, we are fat. In Ezekiel 16, verse 49, this was really the guilt of Sodom. Sometimes we think that the guilt of Sodom was homosexuality, right? Remember the story of what happened in Sodom? But see what Ezekiel said in chapter 16, verse 49. We find the reason why Sodom was destroyed. Behold, this was the iniquity of your sister Sodom. Pride, fullness of bread, and prosperous ease was in her and her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor or even the needy. So, brothers and sisters, today, in the midst of this reality that we see in our world and even in our own lives, what shall we do? We are drowning in a suffocating sea of stuff. What shall we do? There are lots of people and there are a lot of voices that are coming out with solutions to this problem of suffocation in our world today. One way is what they call downsizing. It's time for us to downsize. So you live now in a big house, it's time to think of moving to a smaller house. Consider making this decision as soon as the kids are gone, rather than when you are ready to retire. Some are suggesting. Even if your home is already fully paid, there are still significant costs in owning more space than you really need, like taxes, utilities, insurance, and repairs. Plus, it will force you to downsize other belongings too. So you'll have an excuse for why the kids can't move back later on. Think about that. How about debt? Oh, this is also a big problem, right? All of us have debt, or maybe some of you, maybe there may be a few exceptions here. We're told that over the course of a lifetime, the average American today will pay more than $250,000 US in interest on all the money that he or she borrows. This is according to credit.com. You can go to the website. Pay off debt. Pay off debt as soon as possible. Remember Ellen White, what did she say about debt? Shun death like you would shun leprosy. Right? We need to live by that old school rule. If you can't afford to pay for it now, you simply can't afford it. How about clothes? Our wardrobe is really stuffed with all this clothing, right? If your wardrobe has outgrown your closet and your dresser, I think it's time to purge enough pieces so that everything will fit in that wardrobe. Get rid of unwanted clothing at yard sales maybe, or by donating them to charity. Think about it. And I think that's what I'm gonna do. I have so much clothes, you think the pastor is poor, huh? I mean, the pastor is poor, but sometimes we accumulate all this stuff, through the years. And really, I have shirts there that I'm not even using. Why am I still keeping it there? Right? Now, another thing. How about this? Anything in off-site storage. Are you renting storage, where you keep your extra other stuff, in there? According to the Self-Storage Association, there are about 50,000 self-storage facilities in the United States. That's more than 5 times the number of Starbucks. Eliminate storage fees by getting rid of enough stuff so that all your possessions can just fit in your house. How about equipment exercise? All right. You see, if the exercise bike or treadmill in your bedroom has been idle for a long time, or maybe it has morphed into a permanent clothes rack, it would be better for you to donate it to a local thrift store or to some charity, Think about it. And then this one. Kitchen appliances and gadgets. Yeah, we have a lot of gadgets, right? In the kitchen, in the living room. Ask yourself, when was the last time I plugged that in? When was the last time I plugged this thing in? If it has been there for more than 6 months, then you have not used it. Maybe you have not used the waffle iron or the bread maker. It's probably time to find that appliance a new home. And while you're in the kitchen, eliminate unused culinary gadgets. Okay? How about the car? Some homes have a lot of cars, right? Besides downsizing your home and maybe eliminating debt, getting rid of one or all of your vehicles could result in the greatest savings, we are told. AAA, for example, said it currently costs an average of $8,558 annually to own and operate a vehicle in the U.S. if you factor in all the costs, including depreciation. Wow. So if you are a 2-car family, getting rid of one set of wheels might make sense. One or both partners is no longer working, for example. You might be able to get you might be able to get, for example, a public transportation. Or at least, you downgrade to a less expensive vehicle. So if you're planning, for example, to relocate to a retirement place, like I'm thinking of doing too, sometime, okay? There are communities, by the way, out there where owning a car may not be necessary. How about all this childhood memorabilia that we have in our home? All the trophies, of your son and your daughter, accomplishments, that they have made, right? and you store them there in your home. If your kids or other family members don't want keepsakes from their own childhood or yours, they're not going to want them also. And they maybe want them to be gone from the house. But maybe to you, no, this holds a sentimental value to me. This is precious to me, the accomplishment of my son or my daughter and things like that. But the suggestion here of some is that hold on to a few precious symbolic mementos. Those that really, truly spark, memories and joy. And better yet, if you can just digitize images of those other things, so you can get rid of the rest. Take pictures maybe of those, and then you can keep that as a memory. Okay? How about furniture? Feeling, and too often overfilling a room with furniture is a common tendency in many American homes. It would be nice if we can start eliminating a couple of pieces from the room and see how much more space it would fill, right? How about books, magazines, and DVDs? I've got a lot of books. What am I going to do with all those books? I've not even read many of them, right? Unless a book has any sentimental value, or maybe you're still going to read it again and again, it would be better to put the rest of those books into circulation. Maybe you put them in a yard sale or a thrift store so that others can also enjoy that book that you're not using anymore. Or maybe you can donate it to your public library here, in Glendale Library, for example, where you can always get free access to books, CDs, and DVDs. Maybe you can even store countless e-books. Go into electronic books instead of getting a hard copy, And we have that technology already today, right? And many people are taking advantage of that. You can get a cheap, maybe e-reader, so you can read books, to your iPads and whatever, instead of holding a heavy book, okay? And also, you can easily digitize again, even your music and your movie collections. How about files? You've got a lot of files, right? At home, Consumer Reports advises organizing important files in 4 categories, they said. Papers that you need to keep for the calendar year or less, one that can be destroyed when you no longer own the items that they cover. And third, tax records, which you should save for 7 years. And then maybe there are papers you may have that you need to keep indefinitely. So you can access, copies of many documents, whether it be bills, bank statements, and user manuals, etc., via online accounts. Consider, for example, storing digitized documents on the web-based storage service. There are many of those out there. Or maybe, why don't you buy an external drive so you can put and store all those digitized documents that you have. How about decorations? Right? After the holidays, we have all those decors. Even here in our church, we're still storing some of those decors that have been here for years and years and years. And so we have always been wondering, what are we going to do with all those decors there? Okay? While holiday decor has some sentimental value, consider getting rid of decorations you haven't used for the past 5 years. Particularly those bulkier items, such as outdoor decorations and holiday tableware that you just use once a year. Somebody even came up, Pastor, there is now some modern digital decors that we need. And maybe we can use that here when Christmas comes, with all those lights, right? Instead of putting up a Christmas tree, we'll just have that thing. Well, that's about it, right? So that's downsizing. That's one suggestion that people are giving, out there. You can read a lot of this in the internet. How about our church? Do you think it's time for us to downsize our church? But looking out here now, I see there are a lot of people in this church. Why do we need to downsize? I know there are some people who are saying, oh, people are not coming to church anymore. Maybe true, maybe not. People still come to our church, okay? You know, I stumbled on this cartoon that maybe explains our situation here, maybe to some of us. Notice what this cartoon says. The chairman of the board said, our attendance isn't declining. We are just downsizing. Okay? So think about that. You know, in the New York Times, by the way, she put out an opinion piece, Pamela Druckerman, she makes the comment about the battle over clutter. Clutter isn't a new problem, she said. But suddenly, it's not just irritating, it's evil. She uses the word evil. It's evil. We know we need to declutter our homes, and we should. And I think this time of the year would be the time to start, decluttering our homes of things that may not be needed anymore. There are voices that are calling really for us to simplify our lives. Simple living, in other words. Maybe you may have heard of the term minimalist. Have you heard of that term? That we need to have a minimalist mindset. To be a minimalist, you must live with less than 100 things. To be a minimalist, maybe you should even get rid of your car and go on public transportation. It comes from the Japanese idea, actually, an author by the name of Fumio Sasaki. He wrote a book, Goodbye Things, which became a bestseller in 2015 here in the United States. Okay? He is one of those who promotes this idea of living a minimalist life. Try to simplify things, Even in your living room, try to have the most minimum of items there in your living room rather than having all those things cluttering around there. This way of kind of living, brothers and sisters, is a really freedom. It's in a way, it's really a protest against all these things, that is being produced by our modern world. It is freedom from the trappings of a consumer culture that we have built our lives around. This is real freedom. And I believe that there is important truth, to what some of these voices are really saying about living the minimalist life. Now, coming to our study this morning, as Seventh-day Adventists, we have a clear path of end-time events based on the prophecies that are found in Daniel and in Revelation. And there are further details about these events outlined in the book, The Great Controversy by Ellen White. One of the major events that is based on Daniel 12 verse 1 is what it says here. At that time, Michael shall stand, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of his people. And there shall be a time of trouble, the Bible says, such as never has been since there was a nation till that time. But at that time, your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name is written or is found written in the book. At that time, brothers and sisters, when it comes, it will be impossible for God's people to live a normal life in human society. According to Marvin Moore, editor of Science of the Times, in his book, Crisis of the End Time, he said, it is difficult for us to imagine, he said, what it will be like to leave our homes and flee. You flee to solitary places. It is certainly realistic to suppose, however, that the day will come when each of us will have, what's happening here? When each of us will have to walk out of our homes, we lock our door and never return. Will you be able to walk away from all the things that you have accumulated over the years? Will you be able to walk away from all that you own? and never looked back. And then he said something like this. He said something like this. You and I will have to do that someday if we believe this is true. I don't know about you, he said, but suddenly I have a lot of sympathy for Mrs. Love. You see, when we have so much stuff, it's hard to get out from it, right? Our eyes are already glued, for example, to those. But if you are living a minimalist life, you have only a few things, so what, right? And notice what Ellen White has to say here. In Review and Herald, this was written in March 21, 1878. Hoarded wealth will soon be worthless when the decree shall go forth that none shall buy or sell except those that have the mark of the beast. Very much means will be of no avail. In other words, so much possessions will be of no use. God calls on us now to do all in our power to send forth the warning to the world. In Testimonies, Volume 5, she also wrote, the time is coming when we cannot sell at any price. The decree will soon go forth prohibiting man to buy or sell of any man save him that had the mark of the beast. We came near having this realized in California a short time since, but this was only the threatening of the blowing of the four winds. As yet, they are held by the four winds, by the four angels. As you know, you see that in Revelation, because we are not just ready. And then she said, there is a work yet to be done. And then the angels will be bidden to let go, that the four winds may blow upon the air. Here's another statement of Ellen White. There's so much that she has written, about what we are supposed to do with our wealth. Those who acquire wealth for the purpose of hoarding it, leave the curse of wealth to their children. It is a sin, an awful soul-perilling sin for fathers and mothers to do this. And this sin extends to their posterity. Often the children spend their means in foolish extravagance, in riotous living, so that they become beggars. They know not the value of the inheritance that they have squandered. She said further, had their fathers and mothers set a proper example, not in hoarding, but in imparting their wealth, they would have laid up for themselves treasure in heaven and receive a return even in this world of peace and happiness, and in the future life, eternal riches. And then she wrote these very solemn words. Ellen White wrote, brethren in America, specifically addressing us who are living here in this great country of abundance and stuff. Brethren in America, in the name of my Master, I bid you, wake up! You that are placing your talents of means in a napkin and hiding them in the earth, who are building houses and adding land to land, God calls upon you, sell that you have and give alms. There is a time coming when commandment keepers can neither buy nor sell. Make haste to dig out your buried talents. She continues, if God has entrusted you with money, so show yourselves faithful to your trust. Unwrap your napkin and send your talents to the exchangers, that when Christ shall come, he may receive his own with interest. In the last extremity, before this work shall close, thousands will be cheerfully laid upon the altar. Men and women will feel it a blessed privilege to share in the work of preparing souls to stand in that great day of God. And they will give hundreds as readily as dollars are given now. If the love of Christ were burning in the hearts of his professed people, we would see the same spirit manifested today. She says furthermore, They but realize how near is the end of all work for the salvation of souls. They would sacrifice their possessions as freely as did the members of the early church. They would work for the advancement of God's cause as earnestly as worldly men labor to acquire riches. That's from Historical Sketches, page 292. And then, here's another statement from Ellen White. God is testing every soul that claims to believe in Him. All are entrusted with talents. He has made them His stewards, and He has placed in their possession money, houses, lands. All these are to be regarded as the Lord's goods, to be used to advance His work, to build up His kingdom in the world. In trading with the Lord's goods, we are to seek Him for wisdom, that we may not use His sacred trust to glorify ourselves or even to indulge selfish impulses. You know, Ellen White had a vision in 1868 about coming to the time of trouble, which is very instructive for us, today. We are instructed not to walk away from everything all at once. Now, some of us may have possessions, we may have money in the bank. No, Ellen White is advising us we have to be very, very guarded, okay? We should not dispose of it all at once. I know of some people who did just that, right? And they went to the Wilderness Church in Mindanao, right? They sold everything, and they went to the Wilderness Church, living a nomadic life or something, That's not the way it should be. In this description of the vision, Ellen White is telling us, in her vision, she saw God's people loading wagons and they were leaving for a journey. But then, as they continued on that journey, what happens? The road becomes narrow. It became narrower and narrower. And finally, they had to get rid of one thing and then another until they were walking barefoot along that narrow ledge on the high cliff, hanging onto ropes for support. You can read that fully in Testimonies Volume 2, 594. Now, according to this story, we will dispose of our earthly possessions gradually. Okay? Did you get it? We will do it gradually. We will come to depend more and more on the Lord, and less on the security offered by the world, until finally our entire dependence will really be on God alone. So you can see there people clinging on to the vines or maybe the ropes. In other words, they were just clinging on with faith in God. Nothing else. They got rid of all their possessions. And so, brothers and sisters, as we become faithful stewards, we will grow more closer to Jesus every day. As we come closer and become more intimate in our friendship with Jesus, He will tell us, He will tell you when to finally dispose of your possessions and your wealth to be used for the finishing of His work. And in this way, you will have laid up treasure in heaven and not on this earth. Because remember, everything in this earth is going to pass away. And to the time of distress, the prophet Habakkuk, looking forward to that event, in his words, he expressed the faith of the church. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vines, the labor of the olive shall fail, and the field shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. Yet, what did he say? I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. Brothers and sisters, as we come closer to the end of time, think about these things. Think of your stewardship relationship with God in relation to these prophetic events that will soon come upon this world.
Amen.